our most vulnerable, our seniors, our poorest. In budget, we found that we're going to be balancing the budget on the backs of our seniors and our disabled by rolling back the circuit breaker. Obviously, we have, in the name of tort reform, decided that special interest takes precedence over our citizens. And then also, as we had the heated debate today over minimum wage and the trying to preempt both Kansas City and St. Louis from being able to increase their minimum wage. So today I kind of brought a crew with me to kind of talk about some of those things. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
First, we heard a lot about how, this is St. Louis and how it'll affect there, but what specifically, or how specifically is this going to hurt Kansas City?
Quite frankly, the verdict is still somewhat out. Kansas City hadn't already put it in place because they were told by the courts that they couldn't put it on the ballot. So we would have already voted on it, but then it got taken off the ballot. Then the Supreme Court said it should not have been taken off the ballot. It's planned to go on the ballot in August. So at this point, I think there's probably still some legal challenge to figure out exactly what impact that's going to have on Kansas City.
And I understand there was I don't know if you've been briefed on a Kansas City councilman that introduced a new minimum wage bill
Yes.
today, and the mayor seems to have backed off a little bit and thinks there should be a statewide vote on minimum wage. Just kind of fill us in on all that.
So there is an attempt by the council to go ahead and pass the minimum wage. At last check, they are looking for one additional vote to get it to pass. I have not heard yet whether or not the vote has actually occurred yet.
So does what's going on in the Kansas City government, I know you're a state lawmaker, but do you think it played any role in how things went here on the floor of the House, or will it not have made much difference?
I don't think it would have made much difference. They were determined that I think their target was really St. Louis. It's just Kansas City happens to have been in the mix as well.
Do you foresee any possible legal action by those two cities against this current law as there was against SB 722?
I am assuming that there will be at the end of the day, particularly from St. Louis' perspective. Like I said, Kansas City is a little sketchier because we hadn't actually passed it, but I'm pretty sure that will happen from St. Louis side.
Representative Franks, could you tell us anything about the conversation you had with Mike Liu? And I know that you were one of the people talking to him intently before he took his final vote on that emergency clause. Is there anything you can tell us about how that went and what you said to him?
Really, I was just explaining to Representative Moon how hard we worked. We often talk about, us being elected officials and how the people put us in place. And we also talk about local control a lot. And for us to fight that hard and come together as a city between our elected officials and our community to pass a minimum wage, fight for it, have it go to court, and finally be granted it, only for it to be stripped away. After in 2015, a grandfather clause was there simply to let us do this. And now that we've got it done, you snatch it away. And I just wanted to talk to Representative Moon and tell them the importance of, government as well as local government and the people having a choice and that vote to do so. And that's exactly what they did, and we're stripping them of that. And I think it went over well for the most part until so.
There seems to be some disagreement over what some of these tort bills would do, including the joinder and venue one that came up today. I guess and it seems in some ways a little bit esoteric, but why do you think the everyday citizen should care about this, and what would you like them to know about what was passed today in that?
The everyday citizen should care about this because it affects small individuals. Well, I shouldn't say small individuals. Nobody's small. Everybody's just as big as everybody else. It affects people who have small claims who try to bring them against unscrupulous businesses or unscrupulous businessmen in certain cases in particular. So that plaintiffs can sometimes pool their resources and bring one claim together, right? They do that under the joinder rules if they have fewer than 100 plaintiffs, and they do it under the class action rules if they have more than 100 plaintiffs. So joinder and venue is what was changed today, and it was changed in favor of defendants. More specifically, when you compare it with what they're doing over on the Senate side with Senate Bill 5, it becomes apparent because they made this law today about joinder and venue, they made it retroactive. That means it applies to lawsuits that have already been filed. That means if you have a claim that you think you're going to be able to get some redemption for, you think you're going to be able to be made whole on again, think again. The state legislature just took that away from you. And there's one specific reason, and one only needs to look as far as the lawsuit that's been filed against Tamco Products and David Humphreys. I don't want to level any actual specific allegations, but this looks an awful lot like pay-to-play politics. And we know what's happened in the past when that's happened. We know what happens to speakers of the House that engage in that. And I don't want to insinuate that our speaker is engaged in anything like that, because I don't think that he has. But if you start to connect the dots, when they change the venue laws and they change the jurisdiction laws, and then they make it retroactive, this guy who's got a class action lawsuit filed against him can split all those little cases up across all these counties, and plaintiffs who only have $1,100 or $1,200 claims against a specific wrongdoer now have to litigate these on their own. They can't pool their resources anymore and actually bring the wrongdoer to court. We have some of the best consumer protection laws in the United States. We take care of the little guy here in Missouri, and we've typically been very proud to do that. We're the show me state. Show me what you got. Show me a good product. Good businessmen like that because they don't have to compete against cheaters and shysters. Bad businessmen want to change that rule. They want to take away your right to sue them when they cheat you. That's exactly what's happening with Senate Bill 5, and that's what they've tried to do here today, because most of the time, the cheaters that get away with it cheat you for small amounts. They cheat you at buy here, pay here car lots where they take $75, $100, sometimes $500, selling you a bogus warranty or something like that. They do it when they try to force you into arbitration by stamping an arbitration agreement on a package that you never agreed to, never even saw. That's what they're doing here today. That's what this legislation did here today, and that's what Senate Bill 5 over there does. It takes away your right as a consumer to get redress when a bad businessman rips you off, and they know exactly what they're doing.
You ran against Mary Hill, right?
I did.
I was just thinking about how different the conversation would have been if she had been elected.
It probably would have been a lot more like pro-right to work bogus talk.
Something I wanted to ask about was Representative Ross's bill and the standards, I guess, for licensing. Yeah, what's your opinion on those or on his bill rather?
I've served on 2 different commissions, and typically when an industry wants to raise the standards of their industry, they may go to professional registration to start commissions. Or if there is federal regulation in place, they go to organize commissions to be able to set guidelines and standards to meet federal regulations. Representative Ross's bill puts some roadblocks in the way, and I'm not sure that it's even necessary. I think anytime someone comes and says we want our own commission, I think much of that process is already done. It's not kind of willy-nilly that, you know, a couple individuals say all of a sudden I want to regulate this industry. So I just feel like it's kind of pointless, that we don't need it. And generally it's an industry coming together that decide we need some regulation to help protect the public.
What do you think of our governor's formation of a not-for-profit sort of self-promotion organization? I'm not sure what else to call it.
You know, our governor campaigned on getting rid of corruption, and this smells funny. And I think at the end of the day, he's going to have to answer to that.
Why does it smell funny?
If you start connecting the dots, there are too many links in the different pieces. And you know, we talk about dark money, and again, he's the one that campaigned on the anti-corruption and cleaning up state government, and we were all called corrupt politicians. It sounds to me like perhaps he has joined in that corrupt politician category.